y'all doing today?
I think we should start with the nails.
Thank you.
Because
I'm
moms
team
needs
nails.
to
I
know.
love these.
All right, you hear that, Mama? You hear that? They said keep the nails, don't cut
The
them.
nails.
You know, I love that this film, it like grapples with so many different things of confronting your history, carrying on your history. But I want to know for you as a Sudanese filmmaker that was also like crafting this world during a time of displacement, I want to know like how much is your personal story that you want to bring through the lens?
Yeah, a huge amount. My family is, we're Nubians. We're very proud of our own history. It's a very specific history as well, and it's one that various museums around the world have worked to preserve. And obviously when we all had to flee our country, that sense of leaving that history behind and also having to watch all the artifacts be destroyed in the National Museum, it was so incredibly alive for me at that time. But also in a weird way, I think going like, oh, but the people you love are safe, as my family will say, like that, and that like, well, isn't that the kind of living history? Like maybe we'll have to go and kind of form a new life, but actually that is also part of that history. Moving somewhere else is being well and safe. Obviously we're incredibly privileged few who could do that. But yeah, I think also that whole sense of a conflict not being both incredibly complicated and not that complicated at all. And that any war that targets civilians is not a war; it's just mass murder. But so yeah. Sorry, cheery way to start this interview.
Sometimes you gotta keep it real. I'm okay with it. I love with your character. I love that she challenges Charles. She's tender when she needs to, but then it's kind of like get it together. But I love that we get to see a black woman that's not a caretaker. She's more of a catalyst. And I want you to talk about the importance of that. Look, we're gonna get deep, okay?
Wow. I mean, you just said everything.
Yep.
I mean, my personal experience of black women is that is our roles. Those are mostly the only black women I know, both loving and unconditional love and care, but also because of our history, because of the society we're still navigating, maybe because of some inherent capacities of us, we're also challenging and also oftentimes the ones setting the boundaries in the households. And so yeah, it was really an honor to play someone who is embodying that for this gorgeous but very lost black man.
I think that was one of the biggest changes for me from the novel to the film, and this is not no disrespect to Walter at all, but in the book I think most of the women are much more romantically interested in Charles. Do you know what I mean? They're just and I said I was just like, but why? Like he's got red flags all over him. Do you know what I mean? And actually I think that it was really great that there were all these like very strong women in the story who kind of would look at him and want to give him love, but also go, you know what?
Yeah,
arm's length a little bit. Like
yes.
you need to get yourself together, and then I could maybe be here for you. Right. But no, I thought it was so great, and I think all of the actresses playing the various women, Tamara Lawrence who plays Bethany, Pamela Nonbetti who plays Irene. Like I think that whole sense of like I've got my own rich interior life. Like I don't need to just support you. Right. Actually, I've got my own stuff going on.
Right.
I love that because at first when I saw your character, I was like, "Girl, don't do it.
Don't do it.
I said, "Girl, stand up. He is not the no." When he get his stuff together, he'll and then I'll be like, "That's a good man, Savannah." Okay, but until then, it's a no. But let me lift Charles up again, okay? Let me lift him up again. But
All right.
one of the things that I love about your performance is, Charles is someone who's like really struggling with really the weight of having to be the last person to carry his past, but also be responsible for the future of his family's history. And I want to know for you, like, how was it as a man being able to play a character that's so vulnerable, but also feels so invisible at the same time?
We know these men. We know these men are a family. Sometimes me, at times, this sort of rudderless in a world that doesn't necessarily see you, and not to make ourselves victims out of it, but most times we find fortitude out of it, and we get that engine going and we figure it out because that's what we do. Charles just happens to be somebody who either chooses not to figure that out and just sort of, he's not the most likable. He does some terrible things, and not everybody around him warms to him. But I think the joy of being able to play with these struggles is these aren't the struggles we're used to seeing black men in on film, right? It's a different kind of struggle. This man comes from a different kind of world. He comes from this sort of working class family in this incredible black enclave built by black women in Sag Harbor in the 90s. And he's trying to find his relation to his history and his relation to the world. And it's challenging to be able to play with someone who is rudderless. That's the joy of being able to jump into a character like that. And that was the challenge Nadia gave me, to take the sort of themes, but also at the end of the day, to step out there and figure out, what makes him move and what's the thing that sort of activates him, and finding that, being curious about that with Aniston in the basement and that world down there and the dredging up all of that stuff, and then all of his pain, but all of his history and all of his future that he has as well, that Narcissus helps him kind of figure out. But it was just a joy to be able to see this black man get to a place of curiosity. I don't know at the end that he fully figures it out. Do we ever, But I think it was great to just kind of ask the questions and let this be a character study. It's just good to be able to sit with these black bodies on film. And I thank you for giving us, you and Walter, for giving us that runway. Yeah.
Look, I just want to thank y'all so much. Thank you for taking time out of your day to speak with me. I appreciate you, and thank you for bringing this to the screen. I'm just sending nothing but love and light all your ways. I really hope you have a great day. Thank you. I received that, okay? One of the things I love about your character is when we first meet him, like he's having conversation, but you can tell that there's something that he's hiding. Yeah. And I want you to talk about, do you see like how he first behaves? Is it really just his own just self-punishment, or do you see it as a way of him kind of manipulating the power shift between the two?
Probably both. I mean, clearly there's something pure about his impulse to want to be down in that basement and imprison himself. But he's so used to wheeling and dealing and manipulating people, and he's smart and he's pragmatic about how to work people, that all that's at play. And I think he actually uses the Corey's character to get to the place that he wants to be, and that is some sort of peace. And ultimately, he finds it in a way.
But I love there's something that you say, when Charles is saying that he's outsourcing someone to kind of look up his family's history, and your character's actually trying to read books and study history, at a time where it feels like we're kind of losing that grip of wanting to continue to learn history. What do you feel like this would kind of present to the audience about where we are as a society now?
I just think that the film raises lots of questions about the origin of things and how, at one point I'm really struck. I watched the film last night, and where he says at one point, we are the product of everything that came before us, and that's not profound, and it's very logical. It's not a great statement, but the idea of a relationship to where we came from, and who did what to whom, there should be an accounting for it so we can go forward. That's all. And now this is an era where there's a great, how we receive our information is not reliable. So it's interesting for people to kind of take responsibility for their own personal history and not to bear grudges or revenge, but be clear about how we arrived where we are. And that'll help us understand better where we are. And because that gets clouded sometimes, and that gets clouded by distortion of history and listening to other people tell you who you are. And I think those sorts of things that I'm talking about right now are all embedded in the story, sometimes not explicitly, but, it's interesting that, like his character, Corey's character, he's not a positive character in the beginning. He's a guy that can't get it together. So it's kind of surprising of what some of the issues we come to through this character was at the center of the movie.
Does he see the humanity that people can change?
That's a good question. I mean, I think he uses Charles to push himself in a funny way. I think because he really wants to come to some sort of peace. He recognizes that he's done some very bad things. As he says, it's significant that he chooses Charles's basement to go to. Mm-hmm. Not only because it's convenient, he knows he can do it, that Charles needs something, but also the fact that he's a black man. That all is in the mix. So from the get-go, my character is kind of manipulating the situation. But then naturally, Charles is pushing back. So that push and pull is really at the heart of our part of the story. Of course, there's a whole other part of the story with Narcisse that, is a more hopeful thing. And I think ultimately, in the end, there's some sense of hope in through all the darkness.
William, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me. I appreciate you, and I'm just sending love and light your way. I hope you have a great day.
Great. Thank you so much. All right.